Welcome to the Forge, my wanton wildlings. I'm your creepsmith, and I hope you like my work. Well, hello there, wildlings. See? Just when you thought it was all gonna be chaos all the time, we rejoin the story. Maybe there is a direction decided for all this swarm of utter wicked weirdness. Let's find out, shall we? The Flesh Interface series, posts 56 through 60, by 9 Mother 9 Horse 9 Eyes 9. 56th post, Nature, Nurture, Addiction. You can't quite understand the power of addiction until you've seen it firsthand. Until you've seen it eat like an acid through everything you are. It is astounding to watch. Its slow and total corrosion of your entire life is mesmerizing. As you watch it, you keep thinking, at some point the corrosion will stop. There's no way it'll be able to eat through this next thing. This next thing is too important to me. But then it does. It eats through everything, and you realize you're dealing with a vast and inhuman power. The most frightening thing is that consequences do not work against a well-developed addiction. There are ultimately no consequences, none, which can separate you from your drug. As your addiction progresses and your self-control slips away, there is nothing you won't risk to continue doing your drug. Nothing is important enough. Nothing is sacred enough. Money, career, marriage, home, family, goals, art, religion, dignity, safety, health, sanity, parents, children, life itself. All of it will come into play. All of it will be put on the table. If you play the game shrewdly, you might get to keep some of it. You will not get to keep all of it. You will pay. You will pay in ways you cannot imagine. You will look at the people who have lost more than you, and you will pretend that you're different than they are. You'll pretend that you can walk away from the table, but the time will come to walk away, and you won't. You will keep playing. You will be made a liar. If you play long enough, all your pious little promises will be shown to be lies. I have a good job. I would never risk my job. I love my wife. I would never risk my marriage. I love my children more than anything. I would never risk my children's safety, ever. I don't want to die. Whatever specific promises you make will be the ones that you will break, because those are the ones you've made to try to control yourself. But you won't be able to control yourself. Your self-control will be pried from your grasp like a toy being taken away from a child. And when you break these promises, you will not be some mindless junkie who doesn't care anymore. You will be, in many ways, the same person you are now, and you will know how awful and horrifying your actions are, and you will do them anyway. You will not be able to believe what is happening to you. You will tell yourself that you are unlucky or cursed. You will watch in horror, but what you are watching is yourself. The horror is what you're doing. I realize that this all sounds rather silly and dramatic. From the perspective of somebody dabbling with drugs, this all sounds laughably overwrought. But if you ever go where I have been, if you ever see what I've seen, this will still sound laughable. Not because it's overwrought, but because it is insufficient. Because it doesn't even begin to describe it. 57th post. How do you exert your will disrupting the world? AKA an introductory course in SPDT for advanced hygiene bed users. To hunt prey, to taste righteous lifeblood, you must simply become an ordinary part of the world. Look around. What is happening right now? Nothing at all. Yet the leaves rustle, the grass sways, the birds call, the gnats dance. All of this is just a part of the world. If you become a part of the world, you become nothing at all. You become invisible. If you are not part of the world becomes 10,000 things. This is misfortune. It is easy enough to become invisible if you stay still, if you hide. But staying still and hiding aren't enough to catch prey. You must seek and you must strive. How do you seek and strive while remaining in an ordinary part of the world? How do you exert your will without disrupting the world? How do you move along with the will of the world? This is the mystery of hunting. This is the mystery of subtlety. This is the greatest of all mysteries. Consider the mouse. It is moving through the leaves looking for food. You must not disturb it. Do as little as possible. Wait. Watch and listen. If it moves away, move with it. Follow it. If it moves closer, stay still. Practice non-interference. Let it come. It should be thinking happy thoughts of food and comfort when you strike, when you snare it in your claws. Do not eat it right at once. Let it struggle and give up its lifeblood. Practice non-action. You need not kill it. Let it die. To be subtle is to move with the will of the world. Do not move against the will of the world. This brings misfortune. Touch lightly the course of things without disturbing. Touch it gently at points of inflection, and it will move as you wish. This brings great fortune. This is the ancient art of subtlety, taught to us by our form. I must follow it if I am to find any answers to the mystery of the oily ones, the mystery which has obsessed me since the death of my kitten. I must know why they both feed us and kill us, why they are kind and motherly, but also unnatural and abominable. I have decided that I will go into one of their hiding places. After much investigation, I have chosen a place. It is a very large and horrible hiding place, a sort of mountain of box-like shapes colored by unnatural light. It emits a powerful and unholy odor of decadence. What's more, there is something which makes it different from all the other oily places I've ever seen. It seems that some of our kind live within this place. I have seen them from a distance, going in and out of it using small portals. They are different from those of our kind that I have known. It seems that some of the oily ones' corruption has mutated them. They are very fat and slow. Their faces are stupid and sullen. They fear nothing. They have lost their subtlety. I'm not even sure they're truly of our kind. I will go inside. I must be subtle. And to be subtle, I must become a part of their world. I may have to become a part of the abomination itself. I may find death, bloody death, as my kitten did. But I will hunt to the heart of this mystery, and I will sleep again. 58th post. Everything's fine. You're in the real world now. Now I was standing in an elevator, my hands covered with blood, a dead tech lying on the floor, and a helpless occupant lying on the gurney. The other two techs had hit the emergency button and hastily gotten off at the next floor. Understandable. I had tried to explain to them about the poison pellet in Karen's arm, but they didn't stick around to consider the merits of my argument. I set the gun down on the floor. This wasn't good. A couple of Elian's fingers had gotten blown off, and there was blood all over me, not to mention the bullet in his head. Shit. What now? I had shot people before. I'd killed people before, but this was different. They had given me mandatory therapy after the war. They might give me mandatory something else after this. Karen was wheezing, her blind eyes wiggling in her head. The pellet. I should take care of that before anything else. I wiped my hands off on my nice white coat and rifled through one of the tech bags to find the sea knife and some local. This shouldn't be too hard. It was a lot like removing a rotted jack. I'm going to cut out the pellet. You ready? I asked. Karen's head jiggled in a way that could be construed as nodding. Good enough. I hastily gave her the local and cut a pretty sizable chunk out of her arm, and the whole elevator filled with a burning smell that was a welcome change from Karen's existing smell. After sealing the wound, I examined the shriveled chunk of meat. There was indeed a white pellet lodged in it like a little pearl. I put it in a specimen jar. I might need it to avoid death row. Okay. You're safe now, I said, not really knowing if that was true. Her monitor still looked okay. What now? I wanted to get the fuck out of there. But there was almost certainly a camera in the elevator plus 2 witnesses who knew me. What would the camera show? Me suddenly leaping across the elevator and shooting a guy in the head? That wasn't good. But how would I even begin to go on the run? I didn't know the first thing about identity shifting. And hadn't I done the right thing? I had saved her life. I had the pellet to prove it. I was a hero. Right? I felt like reporting this to my CO. This didn't make any sense, but I should report it to somebody. I called the emergency service on my set and told it what had happened. It told me that officers would be sent over immediately. I tried to explain about the pellet, but this seemed to just confuse it. It asked me if the pellet was armed. After a few minutes of confusing crosstalk, I just hung up. As I waited and the minutes passed, the elevator felt very small and smelly and stifling. The blood around Elian covered the floor, surrounding my shoes. I imagined the cops coming up on an elevator as slow as this one. Karen's head was still wobbling in its weird way, the gurney making little creaking sounds, little gasps coming out of her throat. Everything's fine. You're in the real world now, I found myself saying, half-heartedly going through my standard patter. Absurd. Nothing was fine. Then the thought finally occurred to me, why had Elian tried to kill this girl? Who wanted her dead? This was an important question. Whoever it was wouldn't be happy with me. Looking at her just lying there, gasping, I knew it wouldn't be much use to ask her verbally. But she still had good jacks. It was against protocol to plug into Feedhead's jacks. We were supposed to be getting them used to face-to-face conversation, but protocol did say that you could plug in during an emergency. This definitely qualified. I told my set to find her jack's wireless presence. A flood of messages hit the set, a backlog from the last couple of minutes. Don't call the police. Bad idea. We have to go. Go. The police are coming. Get out. Go. What? I murmured as I saw the messages. Q-controlled text controls police. Police will kill you. We must go. Who is Q? The adversary. Shit. This was so similar to a feed narrative. It felt like that I'd played this one before. What was that one with Zach Okonkwo? Fatal Escape or some shit like that? Terrible story. Why do they want to kill you? I asked. I am one of the bread. The bread? I'd heard that name before. I wasn't sure if it was from news or from a narrative. I had a vague idea that it was like one of those old protest collectives, Anonymous or the Weather Underground, or was it a feed cult? I asked my set and it gave me a summary. The Bread is an alleged group of exploit experts who are thought to have been kidnapped at a young age and trained by a shadowy group, variously identified as the Human Front, the Restoration Alliance, or the New Organ. They are the subject of a number of conspiracy theories, most of which assert that the Internet's combined government corporation has been taken over by a sinister force which the Bread are struggling against within the feed realms and infraspaces. These theories generally involve discussions of mind control, feed conditioning, information war, and the possibility of a fascistic singularity. Occult singularians regard the Bread as leaders of the new 12 tribes of Israel. Is this real, or is this part of a narrative? My set replied, the Bread featured in many narratives, but are purported to hard exist. There is no widely accepted proof of their existence. Can I through-gate your set? Karen asked. What for? We must go, now. 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 I heard the footsteps in the hallway. The elevator doors were still open, so I peeked my head out. The police were coming down the hall. A lot of police. In tactical gear. I intended to call to them, but that little lizard part of my brain told me to duck back into the elevator. There was a huge metal bang, and I found myself on the floor with the gun in my hand. A bullet had hit the elevator door frame. Karen's messages unspooled into my set. I know Q. Ruthless. She'll spoof calls to emergency. Multiple calls. Say you're an active shooter. Let me through gate. Now! You want to die? I gave her through gate access on my set. Then the elevator slammed shut and my stomach leaped into my throat as we plunged downward. 59th post. Infraspace God. As the elevator plunged down through the building, I tried to understand the implications of it all. It was horrifying and raging. All this time, my entire life, without me knowing it, elevators have had a secret faster speed that they don't tell us about. Those bastards! A message from Karen appeared on my set. Must lure them. They will fire in here. Get ready. They'll what? This was out of hand. God, I felt cranked up. Fantastic. The elevator began to slow, everything becoming heavy. Please move the body away from the door. Move the dead body. Oh, no. She meant her own body. I pushed the gurney against the side of the elevator. Door will open. Take cover. I pressed myself up against the wall. The elevator came to a rattling stop, and the door popped open. The back wall banged and dented as bullets hit it. I cowered against the wall, hoping nothing would fly into my arteries. The door clapped shut again, and the floor seemed to fall out from under me as we went down again. Man, this little bird had some access. I had never seen anything like it. Another message from Karen popped into my headset, and I read every word in a glance. Silver Huahua van, parking number 17A, 20 meters. Please take me. Please. The elevator came to another shuddering stop, and the doors opened on one of the underground decks, a dim concrete cavern filled with rows of cars. I yanked the gurney out and pushed it like a madman, rattling over the asphalt. The van was just where she said it would be. I stood there for a moment, waiting for it to pull out for us, but it just sat there. You must get me wired. I don't want to get fingerprints on its presence. Wired? Did she mean physically? An article appeared on my set called How to Establish a Physical Link to Your 2039 Huawei Luxury Chariot. I guess so. I followed the ER guide, looking around every so often to see if anybody was coming. Weird sounds were emerging from the elevators. They seemed to be malfunctioning. I got a wire from my bag and linked Karen's flesh jack to a physical jack by the van's gas cap. A second later, the van's rear door unfolded. Get in. I did as she said. Following her orders felt totally natural. It was like I was right back in the tip of the spear. I remembered my time in Turkey and Greece, playing feed games with the platoon all day and then getting dropped right into the kinetic. Right into the warm, bloody center of the war. Run here, shoot this, get down. 19 years old, traveling the world and blowing shit up while other kids were sitting in economics class. God, it was beautiful while it lasted. I shoved the gurney into the van and jumped in beside it. The rear door folded down. Please secure the body. 90 seconds left. 90 seconds until what? I flattened a seat and clumsily transferred her body to it and strapped it in. The van leapt backward and began twisting through space, throwing me against a side window. Sorry, must go. I got in the other seat and strapped in as the van peeled out. We found an exit ramp and went up. I felt like I was going to break a rib on the armrest as we went on in a never-ending left turn, up and up the spiraling ramp. Finally, the daylight of the ground level burst into view. The whole parking lot was swarmed with flashing cop cars, black armored vehicles, and cops in hard gear. The van came to a stop in the middle of it all. Fuck, I muttered. The cops were moving in a hurry. It seemed like they hadn't quite formed a proper perimeter around the building, but they were close. We've got to go now. They're going to form a... Wait. For what? Air. All around us, the cops were assembling, pulling their vehicles into place, leveling their pistols and rifles. I watched our few possible avenues of exit close up. The van just sat there. Karen's eyes were closed. She looked calm, at peace, just a sick little girl taking a nap. I heard a sound, and my blood ran cold. I hadn't heard that sound in years, but there was no mistaking it. It was a sound that was etched in my brain. In the Marines, we used an app called Harpy to call in air-to-ground strikes. It was a wonky, over-engineered DoD piece of shit full of weird quirks that they were afraid to fix in the name of ultra-stability. It made a little sound like a sleepy bird chirping when a friendly missile was incoming and it was time to put your stupid head down so that you wouldn't get all that expensive training blown out of your skull. About 2 seconds after that sound, something would light up, and a moment later the sound of a blast would hit and the ground would shake. I heard that sound now, coming from my set. My God, what kind of access did she have? Get down. A moment later, police perimeter around us became a wall of fire, and the van was hit with a boom that felt like the earth splitting open. I put my head between my knees and let that old feeling flow through me, the sudden rush of American air power being liberally applied. When I opened my eyes again, the van's safety windows had bowed inward on Karen's side, almost becoming liquid. Everything around the van was engulfed in fire and smoke. Slowly, the windows began to regain their shape, and the van took off with a start, rushing blindly through the chaos. 2 minutes later, we were on the interstate, flying down the taxpayer lane, and I was sitting there, trying to remember how to swallow. It was Unreal. Just unreal. She had called in a drone strike in the middle of Atlanta. The level of access required to do that was unimaginable. It meant completely basing the DoD systems. This was beyond any exploit collective. It was beyond governmental. It was planetary. It was God level. I was sitting in a van with an infraspace god. 60th post, Angelica. I love waking up in the morning to the smell of fresh biscuits. The warm smell fills my dreams. A smell like friends and home and happiness. I wake up to see the sun so bright and lovely in my window. Hello, day. How are you? Every day is bright and cheery when you share a house with your best friends. I can hear them downstairs singing and having fun. After a long night of spooky dreams, it's good to be awake again in the cheery, deary sunlight. I unlock my bedroom door and go out into the hall. Some of my friends have left fresh piles of biscuits in the hallway, several different kinds. Wonderful. I breathe in the smell and make chirpy little sounds of glee. Another day. Chester Barrington comes up the stairs, looking very handsome and somber in his tuxedo. "Oh, Chester," I sing. "How is the gentleman today?" Chester nods to me, gruff but debonair. "Proceedings are afoot, Madam Alice. Proceedings are afoot." He grumbles and makes his way down the hallway. That Chester, so self-serious. On the stairway, Brett Turlingshire and Mary Fairworth are in each other's arms, a lover's embrace. "Oh dear," I cry. "I'm afraid I've interrupted your tryst." "Oh, madam, nonsense. This is no tryst. This is a destined love affair," Brett proclaims in his ringing voice. He looks dashing in his fine striped coat. "Brett, darling, Madam Alice doesn't want to hear all that gooey talk," Manzi says in her sassy southern accent. "I'll leave you to be," I say, lifting the hem of my nightgown and hurrying past them. When I get to the bottom of the stairs, I hear Brett murmur, "I wish the madam would find a destined love affair of her own. She is a noble woman and deserves somebody to treat her well." "You just worry about treating me well," Manzi purrs, nuzzling against his cheek. I scurry off before they catch me listening. In the downstairs parlor, Raymond Dex, Monstrose Pardonsmith, and Elise Rapier are having tea together. The smell of biscuits fills the room. A fresh heap of toffee-colored scones covers the coffee table. A wonderful selection of pastries lies in the corner, and several of the chairs contain more treats. "Hello, dearies. How are we today?" "Can't complain," Raymond says. "Splendid," Sir Pardonsmith intones. Elise merely lets out a little sigh. "Elise, are we not feeling well?" I ask, coming over to where she is perched on the arm of the couch. "Should we be? Life is but a vague dream which disrupts the sleep of death," she murmurs in her smoky French accent. "Oh, Elise, must you be such an existentialist?" "Je ne suis pas un existentialiste," she mutters, getting up and stalking off. Poor Elise, I say as she leaves the room. She is affected by that particular continental ennui, Sir Pardonsmith observes. I say she needs a dose of sturdy American optimism. Her birthday's coming soon. Perhaps we should throw her a party, I suggest. A party for Elise? That would go over like a bar mitzvah for Goebbels, Raymond says. Oh, Raymond, I say, tussling his orange hair. Well, we have to figure out something for her. I don't like her moping about. She's an inveterate mope. There's no changing her, Raymond says. You may be right, sir, I say, sighing. Well, c'est la vie. Not everybody can be as happy as I am. Some years ago, I was much like Elise, down in the dumps, a real gray cloud. Then I met a lovely young woman who happened to be passing through my neighborhood. Her name was Angelica. It had been a long time since I had enjoyed the delights of society, but Angelica had a very mature, soothing presence, despite her youth. I lived in a large house where my family had once resided, but it was empty, so I asked her to stay with me. She accepted, just like that. Can you imagine it? Two strangers making a home together. It must have been kismet. She was my precious angel treasure, absolutely heaven-sent. I had been something of an existentialist myself, disbelieving in God and thinking his creation a cruel trap for human prey. But then he saw fit to bring Angelica into my life, and I never doubted him again. I found her company such a balm that I decided to open my home to whoever needed a place to stay. Singletons, couples, whole families have stayed with me. Many children have been born in this house. Though dear sweet Angelica has long since passed away, her friendship is still a daily gift to me. For the day I met her, I made a choice to simply not feel sadness or worry or fear ever again, and I haven't. Do you think that's impossible? It is possible if you simply surround yourself with loved ones. That's the secret. With all these thoughts in my mind, I walk into the kitchen to see Reginald Strongton, Linda Mercy Chowder, and Marshall Futz clamoring for breakfast. "Oh, madam, I'm famished," Reginald cries. "Oh, dear madam, we starve, we want, we waste away," Linda says in a tremulous voice. "Oh, mercy. I left you with a kingly feast last night. Have you eaten it all?" I ask. "It was not us. We had not a bite. It was that Chester Barrington, the scoundrel," Reginald cries. "He is voracious and utterly selfish. I found him down here helping himself to your generosity, and when I tried to serve myself the smallest morsel, he attacked me. Attacked me, madam. My nose still smarts." Oh, that Chester does have an appetite, but I find it hard to believe such a gentleman would attack you. "Oh, I am on the verge of swooning," Marshall croaks. "All right, dears. Let's have ourselves a proper breakfast," I say. I get a bag of cuisine from the cabinet and pour it into china bowls for Reginald, Linda, and Marshall, and myself. I clear off the love biscuits that somebody left on the kitchen table, and we all sit down to eat. My little friends immediately proceed with chowing down, and I'm about to follow suit, but I notice something that brings me a wonderful thrill. There is a stranger standing in the doorway to the kitchen. I've never seen her before. She appears to have snuck into the house alone. She stands there, tense and alert, her yellow eyes taking in the scene. I am breathless. She is beautiful, extraordinary, exquisite. She reminds me of my sweet Angelica. Oh, lovely day, I am about to have a new friend. One of the things that I really like about this series is MHE's ability to make a reader anticipate. It makes you look forward, wonder about upcoming events. Well, keep on listening, and we'll find out together. Stay scary, my wildlings. Be subtle, and make the most of your nights.